Jack, and this video is the #1 cure for a broken heart. My name's Jack Butler. Thanks to all of you who've subscribed to this channel. It's phenomenal how this community is growing. And if you haven't subscribed, please just go ahead, subscribe now, and click that bell notification so that you hear of new videos when they come out. So, if you're here, it might be because you have a broken heart. And if that's the case, hey, it's difficult. I just want to acknowledge you and honor what you're going through, and just know that you're not alone. A lot of us have been there, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. But I want to get right to the way that I want to encourage you to handle this, which is not to avoid it, not to suppress it, not to repress it, but actually to be with it as directly as you can. This can actually be a really powerful spiritual practice, a really powerful practice that you can take into your life way beyond heartbreak into all sorts of situations. It's actually the ability to abide, the ability to be with things. Now, you might have a fear that if you were to fully feel this and be with it, that you might get stuck, that you might be feeling this for days, weeks, months, years, that you'll go into an emotional experience that you can't excavate yourself from. And I get it. I know what that feels like. Here's what I will encourage you to do, though. I want to encourage you to be with the feelings as directly as possible. So I'm imagining that you might be experiencing some loss and grief and perhaps some loneliness. And I'm wondering if you are able to experience those things, the actual feeling of them, the felt sense of them, without attaching too much story or meaning to them. Right? So in these situations, it's so easy for us to take the feeling and for it to amp up inside us. And suddenly we've got stories attached to it, right? Stories like, maybe I'll never find true love again, right? Or maybe the one I was meant to be with just got away. Or maybe no one will love me. Or maybe I'll never love myself. Can you see how we get stuck in these additional stories that aren't necessarily the direct feeling of what's happening? The feeling is an emotion. Right? Let's say it's the feeling of loss. Like, what's it like just to feel loss? And without having to make yourself feel better, without having to tell yourself any stories about the future, but just to feel loss in this moment and to get to know yourself. One of the beautiful things about heartbreak is you can get to know yourself in territory that you haven't gotten to know yourself before now. You might get to know yourself in your vulnerability and your tenderness and your lack of direction, right? The sense of hopelessness perhaps, or despair that you're feeling. And whilst you may want to override that with more empowering feelings, my sense is that it's inviting you to actually be with these things, not need them to be different. And the reason in some ways to do this is partly to get to know yourself and just to fully have this experience, right? Whether we have up or down experiences in life, sometimes it's worth just really fully being there and owning the experience. But also the reason to do this is because it's probably the fastest path to you healing your heart, to you closing out on what it is that has broken your heart, and for you to be fully available for what's next. And that's what we want for you, right? We want for you to be in a situation where you can engage romantically, or you can pick yourself up after this experience and not cheat yourself of that opportunity, or not be fully available for it because you haven't allowed yourself to feel, right? So there's grief, loss, these things need their time, they need their season, they need to be allowed to be expressed. And in the fullness of time, you know, whether that is days, weeks, or months, they will likely pass and something else can then take root. But if you don't do this process, often you'll be avoiding certain types of experience when you're going into a relationship. You'll be avoiding wanting to get your heart broken. And if that happens, the chances of you meeting Mr. Right are diminished. That's the problem with that, is that it starts to shut you off to the vulnerability, to the depth of feeling, to the true intimacy, which is the path for a real relationship, right? If you really want to be met, if you really want to have a soul relationship with someone, it's important that we have all of you online. So this period can be super critical for you. And it's also a pattern that you can start to take into other areas of your life, which is how directly can you be with things without needing to create meaning and story out of them. So often we want to add in a little piece of self-pity or woe betide me, and we're often focusing on the future when we really want to be present, right? So heartbreak, one of the beautiful opportunities is that it can teach you something about presence. It can teach you something about staying with difficult experiences, staying with things that you think are bigger than you. Sometimes you just have to accept that you don't really understand what's going on, that there are bigger things in life at play than just you and your understanding. And that can be a difficult place to be, but it can also be a super enlivening place of like, wow, if I get to just turn this over, I don't get to control how long I feel heartbroken. I don't get to control how long I feel loss or grief. There's actually a surrender that you can invite in, and that is such a powerful stance for you to live the rest of your life from. Right? If you're able to find a place of surrender where you don't need to be in control, you don't need to know what's happening tomorrow, the next week, you don't need to know where everything is turning out, you're not gripping so tightly because you're actually willing to say, oh, okay, if grief is here, let me welcome it and let me befriend it. And it's not going to kill me, right? It's not going to take me down. It might be the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But if I can learn to abide with that, what confidence and trust can that give you in life that you can handle so many of the things and curveballs that life will inevitably throw at you? So this is a real set of training wheels, if you like, or a muscle that you can build. Now, one of the things that can make this difficult is that we want to focus on, well, what's going to happen next? And I want to say to you that this is probably an opportunity for you to learn how to really let tomorrow take care of tomorrow, and that your opportunity is to take care of today, and even more than today, just to take care of this moment, right? You don't need to know right now how long. You don't need to know whether you're going to be crying next Thursday. Part of you, your mind, your anticipation, your future orientation might want to know that, but your presence doesn't need to know that, right? The part of you that's here, right now, that wants to have contact with what you're actually experiencing, this is your opportunity. Heartbreak can teach you this, how to be more here and now rather than in the there and then. Does that make sense to you? That if you can live your life from a place of, I've just got to take care of today. Now, of course, you know, you might make plans. You might be like, yeah, 3 weeks from now, I'm booking a flight and I'm going to fly to another part of the country. It doesn't preclude that, but you don't need to tie all your consciousness up in thinking about, well, what's going to happen when I land, and how's the flight going to be, and is the flight going to be on time, right? You can start to train yourself to be much more in the here and now, and the quickest way for most of us to do that is to be with what? Is to be with our emotions and to be with our sensations, to be in our body, to sense into our bodies and what we're experiencing. And if you start to take away the content of all the fears and narratives you might overlay from heartbreak, and it's actually a physiological experience, even as difficult as that may be, it makes it a lot more manageable. That your job is just to be with the physiology of it, to be with the sensations of it. It might be that your heart is exploding, or it might be that it's cold and contracted, or it might be that your heart is beating, it's racing because you're scared. And your job is to be with that and to try and relax yourself and soothe yourself as much as you can. But believe me, that makes it so much easier to be with things than when the narrative is running about, will I ever, will he ever, should I have, did I not? All the questions, all the doubts, all the fears that amplify and solidify heartbreak rather than actually allowing you to be with it and for it to move through you, right? It's an experience. It's like weather. Even if you're in the worst weather, at some point there is a silver lining. At some point there's a change, even if it's just you're in monsoon season and then suddenly it starts to rain a little less. That's the same thing that can happen with your heartbreak. Now, I just want to make one other suggestion. If you're saying, well, look, Jack, I'm completely overwhelmed. I'm working full time. I'm taking care of, kids or family members. And it's just, I can't go to work and be crying in my job. That's just not acceptable. And I totally get it, right? There's times and places where it's easier to stop and be with yourself and feel these things. So what you might want to do is commit to having certain periods of time where your practice is just to feel this fully. You can put something on your calendar, 7 to 8 p.m. Monday night, or 7 to 8 p.m. every night this week. That's when I'm going to go and feel things fully. And that's my commitment. You don't have to process it all at once, but there's a time and a place for it, and your system can kind of relax knowing that you're not avoiding, suppressing, or repressing, that you're creating space in your life for something that's important, but also you're saying, hey, I don't want to get completely overwhelmed by this. I might put some boundaries on it. Maybe sometimes you want to sit with a friend, and that's going to be easier for you to do it in the context of a friend. Maybe you want to get a coach or someone that can support you through the process. But I do want you to at least consider the possibility that heartache isn't something, or heartbreak isn't something that you just want to push through as quickly as you can and get to the other side. That there's something to be said for allowing it the time and space that it needs, for being with it fully, for not avoiding it, for not making it wrong or fearing it, but actually allowing it. That, yeah, there are some really tough experiences that come from removing an attachment connection from someone, right? If you've been in a bonded relationship with someone, that is just difficult for most of us, really difficult to let that go. And it doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen over a week. It takes real time for that stuff to heal. And in the meantime, if you know that you are fully in contact with this, you can also balance it with putting your attention productively on some things that support you, right? Which might be spending time outside, spending time in nature. For a lot of us, spending time by water, right? The running stream. There's a way that it can actually start to take certain energy away from you. You might want to get out and exercise, or do something that puts you into your body, right? That can stop you if you have a tendency to intellectualize or fantasize or kind of amp up all your emotions all the time and get worked up. Then an exercise can be a great way, start breathing heavy, even if it's not your favorite thing. That will allow you to be more in contact with your body. So you can definitely put some things that will support you. You can also prioritize spending time with people that you feel supported around, so that you actually get to share and build intimacy with other people whilst you're perhaps letting go of an intimate relationship. Right? There's no reason why this can't be an opportunity for you to stay connected and deepen friendships, and maybe increase the level of vulnerability that you bring to your friendships. Maybe it's a time that perhaps you're a strong, independent woman, and this is a time for you to be held and for other people to step in and show that they care and that they can support you. So there are plenty of opportunities to be had in heartbreak. I feel for you if you're going through this. I know what it feels like. There is life in it, through it, and on the other side of it. So I look forward to your questions and comments as always. Just place them below this video, and hang in there. Tough times also deepen us and create rich opportunity for authentic expression. So if life is working you right now, it wants to work you, and there's a reason it's working for you. You have the capacity to be with this. So let it go, let it happen, be with it as best you can, and I look forward to supporting you as best I can. So I'm Jack. Thanks for being here.